this Easter Sunday, this Easter day, and welcome you to this time together. We'll be chatting a little bit this morning about Easter and the meaning of the resurrection for our lives and other things we're hearing at this point in time, sharing some stories of others who manifest resurrection faith. Volunteers are busy this morning on a little secret mission, so we look forward to that. Much to talk about and celebrate this morning. But first of all, well, what is this? What do we have here?
What is that?
Well, I think I recognize this. It's been unearthed from the first Sunday of Lent. What could possibly be in here? Do you know, Joe? What do you think?
Oh, let's see.
Easter eggs?
Could it be Hallelujah?
I don't know. Let's see.
Let's see what it is.
Well.
Oh, it is
my
Hallelujah.
goodness. Yes. Look. All those Alleluias we buried have been transformed into a glorious banner. Why don't you and Candy put that up for us this morning?
How many priests does it take to hang one
Hang one
Hallelujah?
Hallelujah
That's the
banner.
first question of the morning.
One tall one.
Hey, look at that.
All right.
Not bad. Let's see.
Very nice.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
Hallelujah posted, sir. Hallelujah. Let's have a round of applause.
Yay! Well, good morning. Hallelujah. Christ is risen. The Lord is risen indeed. Hallelujah. And happy Easter to all of you out there in Good Shepherd land sharing with us this morning. We are sitting here in a beautiful day. The rain held off. It's lovely here in the churchyard. A little cool. Andy obviously did not get the message about Easter attire this morning. He's there in somber Anglican clerical gray, but Joe is always, Joe could use a gray suit.
No.
I don't even know where to buy one of those.
Yeah, a gray suit. Anglicans prefer gray to black. Okay, that's right. Okay, good. We've got hot cross buns here. That's an Easter tradition, and it looks like somebody has visited us.
How about that?
Oh,
Harriet the Easter Bunny.
Harriet Deese has visited us with coffee and orange juice and quiche, and what have you got down there though, Lynn? Not there, but in that blue box. What is that?
Oh, it looks like it's an Easter bunny. Chocolate ears, Easter bunny. That makes us think of our bunny, who we miss very much this morning. Happy Easter to you especially, Bunny. We miss you and pray that all is well in your household. We know all Good Shepherd misses seeing your lovely, sweet, funny face. So we miss you.
Good.
Happy Easter buns.
Happy Easter Bunny. Easter Bunny. That was so funny when Bob Nesbitt said that. Happy Easter Bunny. Oh, well, enough of that. Well, there's much joy and celebration in this day, as well as in this time, a lot of stress, distress, and even sadness and loss and grief. So we'll talk a little bit this morning about how Easter faith intersects with that kind of loss and that kind of heartache in people's lives. But we'll just start with you, Lynn, this morning, since we kind of neglected you last Sunday. And, just take a minute. And, just a minute, right, and share with us, what does Easter Day, what does the resurrection of Jesus mean for you? Not for the church, but what's it mean for Lynn Prather?
Well,
maybe when did that first dawn on you as, wow, this is meaningful to me. This has changed my life. This is the heart of my life.
I would say, to answer that particular question, the resurrection evolves every day, every year. I wish I had that moment that I knew the exact meaning and my life changed forever, but my life changes, I pray, with God's help every day when I focus on really the cross. And when you asked what was in the tomb there, I knew what was in there, but I just wanted to jump up and say, it's empty.
Yeah, it's empty. Nothing's
It's
in there,
empty.
right.
And
Oh, good.
that is the resurrection,
Yeah.
that Jesus Christ has overcome death and the grave. He is living with each one of us, and he really does give us himself to resurrect us every single day from death, which is sin and selfishness, into life, which is in him. So,
Andy, how about for you? Being a good old former Baptist, you can probably date that moment when your life changed. What does Easter mean for you?
Easter means for me the ultimate hope. I'm at that age in life where I'm catching up with Joe. And,
You better run fast.
and I've got as many people who are now in glory as I know practically on earth. And it's a hope for me, a sure and certain hope, that I will see them again. That on the cross and the grave, can't leave that part out, the resurrection is what it's all about, is that God accomplishes the impossible. And no one can do that. God alone could pull that off. It also tells me that God has been thinking about us for millennia. He knew his children would err and already had a plan in mind. So again, for me, Easter is the ultimate. When I say final, I don't mean that negatively, but it is the ultimate final hope.
It's an amazing thing, creation. I mean, if you just look at the world around us or look into the sky at night, and all that we've learned about the universe is just truly overwhelming and mind-blowing. And the Bible does kind of tell that big story, that great story, in a way where, if you're impressed with that, when I said to the mountains, move here, or to the sea, this far you shall come and no further, if that impressed you, you will be even more impressed when you see how I am going to restore and renew this creation when it loses its way. I'm thinking, for me, as I've said, I just had that kind of classic Southern Baptist moment, and I've been backsliding ever since. You and Joe, your faith has been evolving. I'm afraid that I had that big moment, and it's just been
I didn't say I didn't
regressing,
backslide.
regressing ever since. I mean, some of my worst moments as a human being have been after I met Jesus Christ. Which is, of course, a great mystery to me about how does that happen. But sin, though defeated by Jesus's obedience and trust in God, still remains a potent force, okay? Not unlike this virus we're contending with, sometimes seen and sometimes not seen, but nonetheless something that, if not taken seriously, can cause great harm in your life or in the lives of others. How about you all out there? Who wants to share with us? We're kind of curious, Did anybody have a bonfire last night? Did anybody walk the stations of the crossroads? I hope you'll send those pictures. We hope you've recorded those family moments and that you'll send them in and share them so that we can kind of put together a montage of how Good Shepherd families and parishioners observed Holy Week and its wonderful moments in their homes when we are all not allowed to gather as a community. You can send those down here to the church to Mumford at goodshepherd-augusta.org, and we'll put something together. It'll be great. I bet there are a lot of great pictures out there to share with us. All right. What else have you got, Lynn? We'll talk some more about the resurrection as we. It's a glorious day for us as Christ people. It's a great victory Jesus has won that we say is a foundation for us to build a life on, is something to look forward to. As a matter of fact, looking forward to it, I would say my future's so bright is that I gotta wear shades. So the first person who can identify the group that sang that song that has a line in it, "My future's so bright I gotta wear shades," there is a chocolate cross waiting for you right here, all right? But we're in the midst of this pandemic as well, and people are afraid, and reasonably and understandably so. And, nearly 20,000 of our families have lost someone, and some of those deaths have been, they're all losses. Some of them have been tragic because they've been young people or people who are fit or in the prime of their lives who just did not do well with that. And so what do we have to say to them this morning, Joe? And as they sit there with loss, and we're sitting here, talking about what a wonderful thing the resurrection is, how it fills us with joy or happiness this day. But if you're in the ash heap, so to speak, of loss and grief, how does that resurrection hope speak to you?
We all have experienced, are experiencing, and will experience loss. And the way we manage that and the way we, to use the word, get through it, but the way we handle it with our attitude and all that, without Jesus Christ, death, resurrection, and ascension, and promise of coming again, and the new life in Him, I don't see how people handle it without that. I know in personal loss that has come, particularly with the death of, tragic death of our daughter Angela and her husband Jim, it was just gut-wrenching, painful, unbelievable pain beyond any sort of thing. Now, we got through it, but we still have that pain. Don't let you think that that's gone away. The way we got through it was, first of all, Angela was a resurrection child. She firmly believed in Jesus Christ and His resurrection. And all our friends did too. And it was the support of friends that were there for us that pulled us out of the abyss. So it's this support group, I hate to use that word, but that's what it is, that gets us through, or gets us to a point where that pain is less. It's always there. It's never going away. But it is now.
Jesus still bears those wounds.
And Jesus, and Jesus took those on for
yeah.
Himself. And that's the wonder of it all. The incarnate God let Himself willingly be beaten and scourged and hung on a cross. That's serious pain, as I've articulated many times before. But that's how resurrection and belief in this, as Andy said, this impossible story that God has made possible. God made all of this. This is an impossible story, this creation. And this incarnate God, this God of love, created us in His image for Himself. And that is the powerful message that Sissy and I took and absorbed and is a part of us. That's how we made it through that personal tragic loss. I think Emily has a question.
Oh, a question. Or
just
a
two
comment.
comments. So Laura Murphy's the first one. Timbuk 3.
Who?
Timbuk 3.
Timbuk 3?
Laura Murphy.
That's the name of the group.
Oh!
Is that the right answer? Is that the right answer?
I don't know. I can tell you.
No.
Oh!
Huey Lewis.
Huey
is
Lewis.
what Leland says. The future's so bright. I gotta wear shades.
That's who I thought it was.
Huey Lewis in the news.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Okay, well,
Well, there's a
maybe close-
version. No, I don't know. There's a version online.
Well, she's young.
It could be a newer version.
Huey Lewis is older.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done, Liz.
It's Timbuk 3. She's right.
That's a new word, yeah.
Okay.
That's the old one.
Well, all right. A winner then, okay?
Yeah.
We'll see you down here some fine day. This will keep. We'll put it in the refrigerator. And when it can be safely transferred to you, we will surely do it.
Oh, Laura. Colin Murphy says we're wrong. So
What does Colin say?
Timbuk 3.
Timbuk 3.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Well, okay, you're wrong.
We'll have a,
Uh-oh.
we'll let Lauren win arm wrestle for it here on some fine day,
I
okay?
have a backup. I'm okay.
Yeah, I do. I do remember, and it just really struck me, and because we're all children of the Enlightenment. We're 200 years into, as Charles Taylor in his book *The Secular Age* says, another way of making sense of things, and that's the purely empirical, material, rational explanation of everything. And you know, so if we're working out of that set of assumptions, well, then as I look, we're all headed for the grave. I mean, we're all things, laws of physics, everything entrophies and dies, and so the trajectory every single human being is on is towards our own end, our own death, and the corruption of our bodies. Ash, remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. We're told, you know, I guess God could say, what is it you didn't understand about that? You know, it was pretty clear when you came into the world, remember you are dust, and to dust you shall return. But that's the trajectory we're on. And everything in laws of physics, if it's on a trajectory, it will follow a predictable path unless something moves it off of that path. It runs into another planet or whatever. And so the intervention that human life has run into, of course, is the intervention of God's own love and grace and the life, death, and person of Jesus Christ. And that alters the trajectory that we're all on. It gives the hope and the promise. I just loved that. I thought that because y'all know I love Christmas Carol, Scrooge's book, and the George C. Scott version of that. And it's winding to its climactic moment, which is a conversion, a resurrection, an Easter story about how somebody who was dead and their loneliness and the miserliness of their life and how their start in life had made them a grown person who had become into that and then awakens on some fine morning to, you know, in the cemetery there, Scrooge, seeing the trajectory of his own life, ask if whether or not, ask the Spirit if these things if they can be departed from. Is there something that can bump us off the path to not only physical death but spiritual death that we're all contending with? And so I just like that. That spoke to me, and I think it speaks to people who are growing up in a rational age for why something has to happen to change this outcome, because it's not a quick trip from great loss or heartbreak or pain or suffering, as Andy Wells knows, to life on the other side, to where we can laugh again or smile again or live again. It's not a quick trip always in that, and but it is a trip we can and do make. And I had a point to make about that. I was going somewhere with that, and it just left.
Can I mention
Yes.
something real quick? Just within our parish, we've had several deaths. And at this time when family members cannot be together, it's excruciatingly painful and lonely. And I pray that all of us that have experienced that loss right now will understand that Jesus lives with us. He's with us to give us his comfort, his strength, as Joe said, through other people, but his presence is with those that seemingly are alone in the hospital. He is with them. He promises that he will be with them. And with everything in me, I know that to be true in my own life, and I know that he's with those that are suffering. And if we're alone and not able to have our family members comfort us, that Jesus is the one that is there to comfort.
A dovetail on that.
Yeah.
In the grief journey, which most of you adults have walked maybe more than once, the thing I connect with the Easter story and resurrection is that on that Friday when Jesus died, the feeling is, oh my God, oh no, that this cannot be done. This is never going to be done. And even on Easter Sunday, if you read the gospel accounts, there are those who are going, this living Jesus cannot happen. Jesus cannot live. Death conquered him. And the answer of the empty tomb is Jesus conquers death. But Robert, I loved what you said. It's a journey getting to that point because it has to be slowly absorbed. And the reality of that has to sink in. That's when true freedom, true life, true resurrection is appropriated by the person, the believer. So that's where you end up, hopefully.
We
Let
call
me say
it.
a little bit of something too. Just excuse me, Robbie. Did you have something very meaningful
Well,
to
I
say?
recovered. I did have something very meaningful to say,
Okay.
and I'd actually recovered my train of thought that I
Okay, so,
started on. So
can you hold
before
on
I
to it, or
went-
you
No,
want to-
I can hold on to it.
Okay.
Go right
Well,
ahead.
grab it,
Let me
grab it.
write it down while we're sitting here.
I've had two personal losses in the last week. My college roommate, Dr. Leslie Wilkes, died after a long battle, and also my dear friend Mark Ketchum in Napa, my great wine buddy, died of the very same disease process. And I've been in touch with the wife and family of and families of both of these folks, and they've said the outpouring has been overwhelming. Now the outpouring is predominantly telephone calls. And let me say something about the acuteness of the situation. So there's a lot of acuity going on now. And that's great, but that support and that outpouring goes on and on and on and on. And I know with Angela and Jim, I mean, the folks were there immediately. Robert, were there, and then they were there. They stayed there at night. They just sit around at night. And week after, because it took us a long time to get to a point where we could actually function. But even now, people, and this is years later, we get a card. Oh, it's Andrew's birthday, or so sorry, this is the anniversary of the day. These sorts of things. So this support, this is what that pulls you. The initial support will hold you out of the abyss. That ongoing love and compassion and understand and remembering all of this has been extremely important for us. It may be a way that we all should do. We're really good at crisis management, particularly as priests, well, and maybe everybody, but that ongoing. So I just want to make that point.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you
We
hadn't
call,
forgotten
well,
what you were
I
going to say.
haven't forgotten. It's a good segue too. We call this good news, that God, there is a God, that God is a good God, a loving God, that we see that love enacted for us in the life, the incarnation, the birth, the life, the death, and resurrection. This is good news. It changes our situation. And so the end of all that is St. Paul says, is there's nothing that can happen. Now this is not an inoculation against life or suffering or injustice or anything. Bad things happen to good people all of the time. Bad things happen to faithful people all of the time. That is the nature of life in this broken world. That cannot be escaped. And so the good news, though, is that if and when that happens, or there is nothing that can separate us from the love of God, from the good will that God has for us, from what God has in store for us. And death, of course, would be the most final, complete thing that happens to us. And not even death, St. Paul says, can separate us from the love we've seen in Jesus. This is good news. Now, it's not always the good news you want. If you're unemployed, the good news you want is, I have a job for you. If you're sick, the good news you want is you can be made well. So it's not always the good news we're looking for, but it is, in fact, the only good news there is. And so I think you could probably testify to that, and that terrible loss of,
There's a fly in
there's
there.
a fly in there. That's bad news. But the good news is,
There's
Joe,
more. There's more.
I'll tell you what, that fly was dead. So I don't know what you put in that orange juice this morning, Harriet. But you know, maybe my life has just been spared there.
Emily has a question.
All
I
right,
just have
good.
two comments.
Oh.
Chet Bitten and Matt Madsen, we got egged. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about that
Oh,
too in a
that's
minute.
great.
That's wonderful.
That's-
Well, let's talk and see what stories, because I've heard some in the midst of this. You know, you shouldn't watch your TV too much in the midst of all this, because we're still in it. I mean, we're still in many ways in the upward
Still are. No, still
climb about this as this works at this initial phase, and so it can be just depressing to watch that news too much, because while the things are changing every day in terms of our understanding of this disease or this virus, the numbers are disheartening, you know. But what they do occasionally is they tell you the stories of people who are living out love and resurrection faith, you know, and obviously the clearest and first example of that's folks who are not adequately protected, who are going to the hospital each day to take care of us. But saw a story the other day about I think over in South Carolina. He's a principal of a little elementary school. Brian Johnson is his name. It was just a great story, and the school bus, instead of making the route to pick up children to go to school, now makes the route to deliver meals to these children. And some of the teachers and the principal are right to greet the kids and students, because as we know, there are a lot of children who count on being in school to get a good meal that day. But you know, that's one story. I mean, because God has done these wonderful things, and He's entrusted it all to us. We are His body. We are His hands. We are His words of encouragement. I mean, the God who we cannot see becomes tangible and present for others many times in our own actions and responses and how we do. And it's, you know, you see the story. I was telling Joe the other day, somebody's written a book about Neil Armstrong, first man to walk on the moon, and quiet man, and tried to get away from a lot of the attention he got. But he got all these letters, but it's a touching moment that Neil Armstrong lost a child to leukemia at some point in time in their story. And he'd gotten a letter from a little boy wanting just, you know, something from Neil Armstrong. The mother sent a letter that said, he's terminally ill. And just within days, but the people telling that story, you know, it was just you could see their eyes filling with tears. So what I'm driving at now, you know it in a movie, and you know it when you see something that is good and true and beautiful and lovely and honorable and loved. You know it when you see it. And you know, there's so many stories of that. Any stories that you all have heard about that? Lynn?
I witnessed, I guess it probably was the second week that schools were out. Anyway, I was going down Henry Street, and I noticed people had some posters out, and I couldn't really read them, but there were some folks sitting in their front yard and lawn chairs and that kind of thing. And I got to the stop sign and on Bransford and Henry, and this young dad and his little girl were standing on the corner, and he had balloons in his hand, and he was holding his little girl's hand, balloons in the other hand, and she was cute as she could be with her pigtails and all. And I thought, what in the world did I miss this morning? And all of a sudden I heard horns honking. And here comes from, is it Langford? Did they still call that school Langford? Mm-hmm. Langford. A train of cars with teachers in their car. They had made posters and signs to put on their cars saying, "We miss you, we love you," just one sweet sentiment after another, and waving. And this little girl and her dad stood there, and yeah, it must have been 30 minutes, and waved. Every teacher honked their whole. It was the sweetest moment. It really was. It was, we complain so much about. Kids complain about going to school, and teachers are worn out, and parents are frustrated, and on and on. And it was such a sweet, and I mean, I just sat there and boo-hoo. It was so touching. I just couldn't help it. So, goodness is everywhere.
And Good Shepherd people can be those people.
Yeah.
We can be Easter people. We can be salt, light, and lemon. We can, so out there, you can do that. I bet a lot of you already are, but pick up the phone, call somebody you don't know, just ask how they're doing. Write a note, take a meal to somebody and leave on their front door or something like that. There's just many, many ways we can give heart to one another, and these small acts. All right, what's going on out there in Good Shepherd land? Quiet this morning. Is anybody there?
Easter Bunny's busy.
The Easter Bunny is making his rounds. Well, we have a little bit here, so we'll finish with that. Now, what have you got down there, Lynn?
These are two beautiful prayer shawls. One is for James Jones, and one is for C.J. Rimchie. And Carol Bennett brought these by, and we will bless these this morning for our faithful sister and our faithful brother, who both are C.J.'s dad has been very ill, and James is recovering from surgery. So we want to bless these prayer shawls, and may they bring comfort to James and CJ, and continue to be a sign of Christ's love wrapped around each one of you. So let's pray as
we will do that. And I mean, just that little group of stitchers and knitters has, been at this
Years,
and
decades.
done hundreds of these things.
15, 16,
And,
17.
it is kind of making that love of God tangible, concrete, and these things have been so meaningful to so many people. And I've run into a lot of people who are not even members of our own congregation
Right.
who have received one of these prayer shawls, and they just still sleep with them.
Yeah.
Even though they're past what put them on the prayer list to begin with. But just a sign of resurrection, Easter faith and action, that God is with us and loves us, and that we hope we all come to know that and experience the blessings He has for us. But why don't you lead us in a prayer, and we'll send those on.
And they are knit together in prayer. They really are. And I know you all have witnessed many people in the hospital with their prayer shawl on them while they're recovering
Yeah.
from surgery or whatever they're dealing with. I've seen many people.
I'm a recipient of a prayer shawl several years ago when I had a ruptured disc, exquisite pain, and all the things that go with that, and eventually ended up with surgery. And a prayer shawl showed up, and that's 7 years ago now. And I tried to find out who made it, so I can thank them, but it's anonymous. So it's a person. I have no idea who made it. Robert, it's on my bed. It's right on my bed right this minute.
Foot of your bed.
It's foot of the bed, and sometimes I'll just wrap it around my neck and just sit in the easy chair and meditate and reflect and all that. But it has been a source of great comfort knowing that someone did that without any recognition, and they did that in love and compassion. And I don't know if they know that I got it, or they don't even know who did it. And that's the seeds of love that those wonderful people on this prayer shawl group that do that. They do it, no recognition and no expectation that somebody's going to send them a thank you note or a bottle of champagne or something like that. And it's that gift right there, unconditional gift, that makes that even more powerful. But It's been a great source of comfort and solace to me. And the puppies, they like to
wondering
get
about
on
that.
it too. Oh no, they
All
love
right,
it too.
well, let's get them blessed, Lynn.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the hearts, the hands, the prayers that go into these beautiful prayer shawls. Lord, we pray for comfort for James, continued healing, comfort for CJ and for her dad to continue to heal. Lift up her mother also. Lord, may these prayer shawls continue to envelop your love for each one of them. Bless them now, Lord, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, in the same spirit, we've got some nice parishioners who are sewing masks. We're all going to need masks for some period of time to protect others when we have to go out, in case we are actually carrying the virus. And so, the first lot of 24 has all been gone. I saw people coming by yesterday to get some. There were none there, but there's a new set on the way, and as soon as they're here, they'll be available for folks to come. We'll put up a post and say you can come get one. I wonder what folks are going to do this day. Emily, you know, maybe folks will chime in there. How are they going to celebrate Easter this Easter day? What are some of the things they'll do or anything like that? It is so beautiful here right now. I wish we could take the camera and show you the towering pines here in the churchyard and the clouds slowly going by and the great crowds behind the church and the sun. The church is just bathed in the sunlight. I remember, I think it was last Easter. I was down here very early, and it may have been 2 Easters ago, but it was down here very early, start the day, and 2 jets had passed one another,
Yeah,
and their
remember that.
contrails were in the sky, and they made the cross.
Oh, how wonderful.
The cross,
Oh.
right over the
Oh.
church. I mean, I had a picture of the church and the cross right over it. I couldn't resist sending it to Matt Rich over at Reed Memorial first thing in the morning to say, well, it's clear, you know, who's enjoying God's favor on this block, okay? Yes, Emily?
Okay, Nancy Greenwood says Zoom with family and friends.
Uh-huh.
Ashley Pritchett says family lunch after church, just the 3 of us.
Good.
So,
We had a little note from Ashley and her family. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
It is amazing. I mean, you know, so oftentimes I say, you know, be honest about this business. How do you have a relationship with a God you cannot see? You know, and realizing, of course, that it's hard enough to have a relationship with people that you can't see, you know, so many times. But even in the face of that and the difficulties we often experience in being family or being friends or being work colleagues or neighbors or whatever, it's amazing how much when you don't have that anymore, you miss it. You know, how much when you cannot go about and
True.
engage others or greet them with a hug or a handshake, or even how you have to, oh yeah, I need to be standing away from you, how much you miss that. Emily, what we got?
So Kelly Fain says
Kelly Fain?
your daughter,
Kelly
your
Fain.
daughter
Hey, Kelly.
says baking bread.
Yeah.
Paige Drew is family breakfast, and Chad Bitten says he needs help finding all his eggs.
All right, good. So one of the
He's
things
on his own.
going on this morning is
So cute.
we normally, part of the Good Shepherd's egg hunts are always a happy piece of Easter, and we know we successfully have resisted the effort to have an egg hunt on Maundy Thursday or Good Friday or Holy Saturday, you know, while we're trying to keep Holy Week by having one on Sunday morning in between, right after the night. And it's always fun to see just all these children scattering around in between services. And so we can't do that today. And so Jenny and Roger and others have organized that. So we're going to release you in just a minute. You know, got an egg hunting aged child. Nice Good Shepherd folks have come and appropriately with hazmat suits and all of that entered your yard to hide eggs for your children so you can release your children to go out and have egg. Look for the empty egg, though, right? Because what's in here, Lynn? Nothing. No one. Okay, especially not Jesus.
It is empty.
All right, Emily, what do we got?
Okay, Pam McCorkle is visiting her mother. Rebecca Bruni is watching Jesus Christ Superstar. And Roger wants to remind everybody of Sunday school at 11.
Sunday school at 11. All right. It is 9:40. And what we're going to do right now is just say goodbye for a moment. We have to go get dressed for church. We need to move the camera into the church. Hopefully it'll come back to life when we unplug it and move it in. So we're going to say goodbye to you for right now. Go hunt your eggs, find your eggs, and know that you've been egged on this day by people who love you and care for you. And join us in the church at 10 o'clock for an Easter Day service. So we'll see you in just a moment and wish you and yours a happy and joyous Easter, and of course God's blessings and God's protection in this day and in the days to come. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Alleluia, alleluia.
Thanks be to God. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And as Andy says, we'll see you in church.
That's right.
All right, y'all. Let's go get dressed for church.
Be our dress.